Okay, so when we think about leadership, we often think about a lot of skills and a lot of different techniques or skills. But actually, because leadership is so many different things, if we don't have clarity on what's important to us, we find it really hard to exercise our leadership in the moment. And the best leaders are able to be their authentic self as leaders in lots of different moments. So whether it's, catching someone doing something right, whether it's having a hard conversation, whether it's selling a vision, sharing how people can get involved. There's so many different manifestations of leadership, which is why it's like this big umbrella. It's not just one thing. And if you don't have clarity on what you think leadership is, then you'll find it very hard to just be a leader in all those different moments. So that's why I love this session, because we get to explore what leadership means to you. So I'm going to start by playing a video. I just want you to watch it and then we'll have a chat about it after.
To the top. So come up to that marker.
So I look straight down the barrel.
You ready to go?
All right, well, let's start. When you think about leadership, what comes to your mind?
It's a good question.
Leading?
A few different words, actually. Probably responsibility, integrity, vision.
Someone that you aspire to want to be like.
We often have this idea that leaders are the people who are just like dictators, and they want to stop us from doing things and make us forces, put us into place and make us be robots.
Well, for me, leadership doesn't come from above. It comes from energies that are pushing you up.
Inspire confidence in someone to get something done.
It's not just about you, it's about them, the team.
Bottom line is that the whole can be greater than the sum of the parts.
It's important for generations coming through to have people ahead of them that aren't saying,
It's someone who's willing to fight.
I think walking the talk rather than just saying things that you don't actually do.
I don't know what proportion of the population are cut out to be leaders, but it's probably not that many.
You see, I believe everyone can. I believe everyone can.
I think a leadership title, that doesn't mean much without the right qualities.
Traditionally, when we think of a leader, we think of like a person of power or influence. But even at uni, you see people in tutorials, they're leading conversation or ideas.
I think that someone with an eye to humanity's problems is really admirable.
Be part of the motion of humanity.
Standing up, being counted, you need brave people. And also it's exciting to be someone who tries to make a difference.
Watching people doing great things and you just feel inspired and want to talk to them and learn from them and do the same or even better things.
I think real leadership is about changing people's lives for the better.
Okay, thank you, University of Sydney, for that. A few more people have joined. Hi, Yash.
Hello.
Okay, so what I like about that video is it captures so many different aspects from different people. So I just want you guys now to pop into the chat box so we can all see what you think leadership is. Ability to influence, thanks, Rachel. Ability to inspire and create followers, influencing and guiding to maximize the efforts of others. Yep. So there's a lot of consistency with those comments. Driving change. Yes, the never-ending circle of change. Empowering people to become their best, accountability, making a positive difference with their strength and value of a whole team, helping people reach their potential. Yeah, great thoughts. So, there's so many different aspects of leadership, which is why it becomes really difficult to get clear unless we spend the time filtering through all of the different options to say, what do we really believe? I've got another one from Rachel, managing vision and developing capabilities and enablers to get there. Fantastic. So, okay, there's also no absolute agreement or consistency across the world. So something like 20,000 books on leadership, which is, and that's just on Amazon, sorry, which is incredible, the number. It's also something that you hear all the time, not only at work, but in the industry, in, a lot of capability training. So it is something which is important, but how do we actually define it? So we've got Stephen Covey's definition here of it's communicating people's worth and potential so clearly that they come to see it themselves. So he's very much around how do you bring out the best in others? You've got Simon Sinek talking about if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and be more, you are a leader. So again, also, how do you create greatness in others? So similar to Stephen Covey. I worked at J&J for a really long time, and Robert Wood Johnston, who was one of the key CEOs and founders, talked about giving direction to human energy. So, how do you give them the ability to know where to focus, where to go, and how to evolve? And then you've got Jack Welch, which is before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. Excuse me. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others. So he's talking about his own leadership, as well as then being able to apply that to other people. For me, one of my key definitions is the ability to turn possibilities into opportunities and growth. And I think that applies to yourself, but I also think it applies to the people around you. And then how do you do that even more broadly? By being able to scale it to even people you don't know. So there's lots of different elements and definitions, but I think one of the most important pieces is that you don't have to be a certain type of leader. So, these are people who are held up as great leaders. So you've got lots of famous CEOs, etc., from all different companies. What's really interesting, though, is they all had a different focus, but they were all great leaders. And I think that's one of the most important things for us to wrap our heads around, which is you don't have to be exactly like another leader to be a great leader. In fact, that's actually probably going to make it harder, because you're going to be trying to remember all the things. Now, that doesn't mean there's not some really good skills that you can develop, but being the true leader that you already are, the person you already are, is a big part to becoming a great leader. So just what do other people think about that? That's just a thought I'm putting out there. What do other people think? You can pop it in the chat box. Cassia agrees. I am open to disagreement, by the way. Everyone brings their unique leadership. It's so interesting. Even if you think about all the people you know personally who are great leaders, I would warrant that they're all different. And they have different strengths. So yeah, it is about being authentic. Thanks, Mel. So Brene Brown, who does so much work in the space of emotional, like EQ, understanding people, understanding what drives us, understanding our humanity. I like the way she crystallizes things, because she says who we are is how we lead, which is the point I was also trying to make in the previous slide, which is it's hard to lead if it's not you. You have to be constantly thinking about it. So when we're able to pair back to what's at our core, then it's much easier to build the skills on how to become better at doing those things that we inherently are authentically aligned with. And that's the point Rachel's also made, thanks Rachel, which is if you're not authentic to self, you cannot expect to bring your whole self to work. Absolutely. So the key here is not copying. It's good to be inspired by others and to learn from their strengths. But the key is not to become someone else. The key is to unlock your own leadership. I personally love Dr. Seuss. I just love how he is able to articulate deep human truths in such a simplistic but like profound way. So I particularly like this quote: "Today you are you that is truer than true. There is no one alive that is youer than you." He's so profound. And as we know, the world needs leadership diversity. There is so much data now on the value of leadership diversity, the importance of diversity in teams, the importance of diversity in the way we solve problems, the importance of diversity in just the way that we can understand how to be better people. And so the question is, how do we unlock our own leadership? How do we get to the core of who we are? It sounds ironic that the core of who we are is sometimes really hard to find or really hard to identify for ourselves. It's like, you know, kids when they're born, I remember, you know, with Charlie and Roxy, about 18 months, you really see their true personality, you know, kind of, it just comes out in their own self. And you see it in all their little actions. And as we get older, we develop more filters, or we develop more concerns about what other people will think. And so we start to put on top of ourselves all of these different expectations or perceptions, and we separate from our true self. And so actually one of the ways to get back to being a great leader is to take away all the mud that's come on top and to get really clear on what it is that we believe at our core. So we're going to jump into an exercise now, because we're going to be finding our core essence, our leadership why. So as you can see, I've just got these 3 circles here. And what I want you to do is grab a sheet of paper or use your iPad or whatever device you've got and just draw them. Okay, so like I've got here, just draw the 3 circles and pop in it essence, experience, and expertise, because we're going to be answering some questions around these 3 buckets as one of 2 exercises to help us get to our leadership why. Has everyone had a chance to do that? Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I want you to think about the qualities of the best leader you have personally experienced. So it doesn't have to be someone from work. It could be someone outside of work, but I want you to think of this person and why they are the best leader you've personally experienced. And I want you to think about what makes them stand out. Like, what are the qualities that make you see them as the best leader that you've personally experienced? You can write their name down if that helps. This is just for you, so And you can just give me a bit of a thumbs up when you've answered the questions. Virtual thumbs up from Katia. Thanks, Rachel. Gotta tell you guys something funny. Thanks, Annie. Because I talk with my hands so much, like I'm always going like this, and now Zoom tracks it, and I get all these hand signals in my corner because it thinks I'm doing all these gestures, and I'm just talking. Okay. Okay, so I want you all to pop into the chat box. What were the qualities? What were just some of the qualities that you wrote down of the best leader you've ever personally experienced? Interested to see the diversity here. Gave you confidence, made you feel good. Yeah, a lot of feelings. Human at the core and people first. Beautiful. Listen to understand. Curious, humble, creative, courageous, a connector. Oh, these are all beautiful. Authentic, warm, supportive, and fair. They champion the team and individuals when they weren't in the room. Ooh. Adapted, personalized support to me. Authentic, empowered people, honest, straight up, clear vision, fair, strong morals, strategic, empowers others, genuine and care, passionate about vision, collaborating and empowering. So what's really interesting here is so many of you have talked about the human side. Because sometimes we think about leadership as the work, and there is obviously an important place for leadership at work. You know, so how do we create a vision? How do we drive change? How do we deliver the plan? How do we empower people, et cetera, et cetera? But actually, you've all written about the human side, the personal side, which I think is a really good reminder for us, because it is important to deliver outcomes at work. But when we think about being a great leader and empowering and inspiring others, it's about being a person first. And all of you have identified that. So let's move on to the second set of questions. I want you to think about yourself. And I want you to think about what you do as a leader. So this is going to that point around behavior. You know, what do you do as a leader every day? So think about what makes you stand out. And this could come from feedback that people have given you. What do other people say they admire in you? Also, what are the qualities you're most proud of about yourself? So the ones that are most important, the ones where you go, oh, like I really wanted to get that right. And the ones, where you may feel disappointed the most yourself when we don't get it right. Which again is being human. Really interesting too that the things that make us stand out to others are often the things that we take for granted. So we think, oh, it's not that big a deal, it's not that important, but actually it is. But because we do it all the time, we sometimes don't recognize and realize how much of a strength it is or how important it is, because it's just our day-to-day. So are people good with this? We got thumbs up. Okay, I'm going to ask if people want to come off mute. And rather than pop it into the chat box this time, I want you to share. And I know it's a little bit awkward because it sounds, you know, like tooting our own horn, but it's not. I just want us to have a bit of a chat about, you know, like what may be some of the things that you've identified.
I can go. I've literally come off the back of a review period, which was literally yesterday. So it's very
okay. It's very timely then.
Yeah, very fresh in my mind. And also I often encourage feedback from my team. So I think I get some of this. I think for me, some of the key things as a leader that other people see is like my ability to open up opportunities, but also bring people together. I'm quite decisive. I think people quite like that as well. And some of those other things that I've seen in other leaders, the authenticity and the approachable manner has come up. And also humor for me as well is really big in leadership. And that's, I think, one of the things to me that's really important.
That's great.
In the right situation.
If we can't laugh, I feel like it's all over if we can't laugh.
Yeah, totally agree with that one. As Rowena knows.
Yes. Mel and I worked together years ago at J&J. Yeah, we always had to laugh. I mean, sometimes you just sit there and go, you couldn't make this stuff up, could you? Sometimes it just is so ridiculous. You're like, I couldn't make it up. The only thing to do is laugh.
Exactly.
Does anyone else want to share some of the qualities they put down for themselves?
I'm happy to. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks, Annie.
High energy, curious, empowering were sort of the three that came straight to mind.
That's brilliant. I can definitely say yes. For you?
And I think the other one that's really important is my old boss used to walk the talk. So whatever he said, he would always jump in and help as well. So he'd roll his sleeves up and he'd muck in, and that I thought was amazing because it's leading from the top.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's because I always say, you know, like leadership is like digital. It's one word, but it's like 50,000 different things. So it's so important to actually get clear, not only on what our strengths are and what we find important, but what are already things that we're doing that people really value and appreciate. And if you're not clear, just ask people. Just basically send out, you know, like ask them one-on-one, or just send out a top line email. Just say, look, you know, I'm just really interested in what makes me stand out to you. And people will tell you, and they'll be really honest, and it's really helpful because that then takes it from your subconscious, which is where a lot of our strengths live. They live in our subconscious, which is why we don't notice them. And it makes you clear, but then you can be even more intentional with them. And when we take our natural strengths and build them into superpowers, that's when we expand our impact and influence as leaders. So, you know, it's not being the best that someone else is amazing at. It's taking what is inherently in you and making them into your superpowers. because that's where you'll have the most impact on others as well. Does anyone want to add anything to this conversation around our expertise? Any insights that are coming up for anyone?
Rowena, it's Carissa here. I constantly get feedback about being supportive and empathetic to the team, I think, and putting myself in their shoes. So I think that's something, you know, honesty, authenticity, it comes in many sort of forms, but it comes back to that point that I made before, which was about being quite people focused and sort of human first. And then I think the other thing, and it's something that I know I do, but it's something that I continue to aspire to do, is be quite solution oriented and clear about what success looks like for other people. Because I think as a leader, they're looking to you to show where it is they're going or where it is the team is sort of heading. And if you can't be quite sort of specific and tangible, then people are not quite sure what their role is in the bigger picture. So that's something I think that's quite important as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing those, Carissa. I can definitely see that in you as well. And it's nice also when we have our superpowers, because that means that we're leveraging diversity too with people who have different superpowers. So we're all not trying to be, you know, average at everything. We're all then able to play to our superpower strengths as leaders. And that's when, you know, you've got everyone shooting on all cylinders, you know, 9 out of 10 with what they're great at, and we're able to leverage each other's expertise. That's how we get the 1 + 1 = 5. So, great. Thanks everyone for contributing to that. The last one is your essence. So this is about what you believe, what you hold to be true. So the questions I've got here is, what do you personally believe leadership is about? What leadership qualities are your trademark? If there was one thing that you wanted to be known for, what would that thing be? And what do you feel is at the core of who you are as a leader? So this one's probably the hardest, because what we're doing now is we're filtering further down to, you know, what is at your core? What do you believe? What are the most important things? What makes you stand out? What makes people go, oh, when you say that word, I think of that person? Okay, so I'm going to be really brave here and say to you guys, what do you think my essence is? So what's one word that you would say makes me stand out to you guys? Pop it in the chat box, given there's a number of us. And I know some of you know me better than others. So some of you have known me for years. Some of you don't know me that well. Okay, so optimistic, generosity, positivity, based on this call, passionate. Yeah. warmth and connection to drive a positive outcome. Thanks, Carissa. So the thing I get from a lot of people is positivity. And it's so interesting, right? Because like I said, you know, we live with our essence. So I don't, you know, I don't think I'm super positive, but people tell me I am, right? Because it's around me all the time. But I also think that positivity, which everyone tells me I have, so it's very consistent, it leads to seeing what's possible in others. So I am a glass half full person, and I love seeing what's possible. And one of my core values is possibility. So what people see in you generally is also linked to your personal values, because it's things that connect with you, that you believe in, that you do innately. It's stuff that you don't even have to think about. It's at the core of who you are. It's like when I was talking about my daughters at 18 months of age, you could clearly see who they were. And they were both different. So, yeah, so I want to know if people want to share, what did they have as their essence? What did they have as their descriptions of themselves? So anyone want to come off mute and we can have a bit of a chat?
I was similar, Rowena. I was I just said high energy optimist.
Yeah.
So optimism really is kind of at my core. I love bringing people together to make the impossible possible.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful articulation. Make the impossible possible. I love that. And it feels right too when you think about it, because it's in you. Yep. So Rachel's saying, I get that too. High energy and positivity. Beautiful. Who else wants to share?
It's Sam here. I get the same thing. I think you would already know that through previous interactions. Very high energy. I call myself glass overflowing. I'm way past full.
There's a waterfall.
I got a waterfall. Yep, that's what I'm thinking about as a representation of me. I also think there's something about empowering as well. Like, because I'm so extroverted and I'm fully aware of that, I actually get on really well with introverts, which is super weird, but it's because I really believe that every leader is uniquely different, and so is every person. So obviously it's a unique combination no matter, you know, what you're dealing with anyway. So my thing is about empowering people to be themselves, if that makes any sense, to be, you know, to reach their potential in the way that they need to do it for themselves.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it. Did anyone have anything different?
I was going to say I was pretty similar to Sam in terms of the empowerment, but I'm actually an introvert and a glass half empty kind of girl. But I always joke it means I'm first at the bar getting the next round in. And I think that's reflective of kind of the other values of this. You know, it's almost a high challenge, high support. Yeah. And it's that support and care component of, yeah, I'm next at the bar. I'm thinking about how do I unblock? How do I help and assist? Yeah. So there's the empowerment, but the support that goes with that.
I love that. I love the metaphor you just used. Like, that's so memorable. Oh, that's good. That's great. Mel, did you have something to share?
Well, I was just going to say, I've always been told I'm authentic, and I'm sure you remember I've got high energy and love to help people and help solve problems, and yeah. So
yeah, absolutely. So you may want to think about this a little bit more. We're going to jump on to our second exercise. To help us get to the core of our leadership why. So a lot of what we've experienced builds into this. So it's a combination of who we are, but also what we believe, what we've discovered through our own experiences. And so I want to play this video for you, and then we'll do the exercise.
I started teaching leadership probably about a decade ago. Management was my first love, but I have to tell you, leadership has been keeping me up at night. It's just so hard. And the reason it's hard to be a teacher or student of leadership is because there's no consensual definition of what is leadership. There's no body of knowledge that if you read this body of knowledge, you are an expert in leadership. There's no discipline base in which leadership can be found. I have come to a conclusion, my own conclusion. I have come to believe that what you need to do as a student of leadership is to develop your own point of view. So this is what I've been trying to do. When it comes to leadership, people will sell you anything that you are willing to buy. For the past 10 years, I have been reading a lot of this literature, and I've come up with my own point of view. I call that point of view, I call this leadership capital. Leadership capital is the wisdom to decide when to manage and when to lead, together with the courage and capacity to act on your choices. So for me, the most important elements of leadership are courage, capacity, wisdom, decision, and choice. It's my sincere hope that my point of view will help you in thinking about your own. Because what's important is that you come up with your point of view. So, what's your definition of leadership? Think about it. What is your definition of leadership? Marvin Minsky, the father of artificial intelligence, has a great quote. He said that point of view is worth 80 IQ points. Imagine that. Just having an articulated point of view is worth 80 IQ points. I believe that each of us has an opportunity to develop our leadership capacity, what I call leadership capital, every day. And one way to improve your IQ is to develop a point of view on those leadership themes that matter most to you. So, what's your definition of leadership?
Interesting, isn't it? What's our own definition? So one of the ways that we can start to think about our definition is by thinking back to different experiences that we've had, the ones that have shaped us the most. So this is really simple. It's just kind of what are 3 significant things that have happened that have shaped your perspective on leadership. So this is mine. I'll give you the short version. The long version can be over a wine somewhere, somehow. Okay, so when I left uni, had no idea really. I was a green whippersnapper, but I joined Procter & Gamble, and they had some really great leaders. So this is back in 94, 95. I had lots of managers who'd done a lot of leadership training, but they took leadership really, really seriously. And I think at the time I didn't value how good they were because I didn't know any different. It's when I left P&G that I started to realize that, they were awesome leaders. And so many of my personal beliefs have come from being coached by them, but also seeing how they did it so well. And I am so grateful that I had such a great role modeling experience and the chance to learn, even though I didn't realize how much I was learning at the time. It's like, it's when you realize what you don't have, then you go, that was awesome. But anyway, after I left P&G and after another job, I actually moved to Coca-Cola, South Pacific. And it's the first time in my life. So I would have been about 28 or so, 29. First time in my life I'd experienced a true fear culture. And all the people I was working with were excellent. So Coca-Cola at the time, they were sourcing people from all really good companies to come in. They were paying 20% above market. I'm like, how good is this? You know, especially when you're 28, 29. Like, I'm working at Coke, you know, which was so big in the late 90s as an iconic marketing brand company, paying above market, working with all these great people who come from all these great companies. But the reason why I should have been wiser, they were paying 20% above market, is because the culture was awful at the time. And the lady who headed up, not just Australia, but Asia Pacific, her name was Mary Minnick. And she was actually known as Bloody Mary. So the fear culture was pervasive. And it's the first time I've actually hated going to work. So, you know, for the first couple of weeks, I was like, oh, it's not that bad. I'm just new. It's going to be fine. My positivity kicking in, but that positivity muscle just wasn't enough to stay there. And I actually, just one day, I think over dinner, I burst into tears. I'm like, oh, and then my husband, David, not my husband at the time, boyfriend at the time, he's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? I'm like, I hate it. I hate going to work. And I've never hated going to work. I've always loved going to work. And at the core of that was the fear culture. And I fundamentally believe fear culture is wrong. I know it can get results, but I think it goes against respect for people. I don't think it gets the best out of people in the medium to long term. And I just feel like it's morally wrong. So, you know, when I see people who drive results through fear, who want to control people, who put them down without having respectful conversations, maybe about development areas, it makes me really angry. And so that's one of my core truths about leadership. It should always be about raising people up, not putting them down and controlling them. And then my last one is, I guess, when I left corporate, excuse me, just, you know, when I was in a business, you know, corporate role, you're so busy doing that you are just focused on what's next. But when I actually left, I was like, okay, now I have the choice to do something different. But what is that? And it took some time to transition into what I call this place of possibility, but it's opened up so many worlds for me in terms of just how I think about opportunities, how I think about activating possibilities. You know, there's definitely a much greater belief that, you know, just go with the universe. And it taps into one of my beliefs around, you know, everyone has that opportunity and choice. Possibility is there for everyone. It's just often we're too busy looking down and we're not looking up and we're not open to it. So this leads to how I've crafted my leadership why. So I believe great leaders are deep inside all of us. I honestly do. I want to help others unlock their greatness and live a life of growth, not regret. And to achieve this, I will create environments and contexts where people can transparently explore, learn, and live into their own leadership. And this just feels right for me. It resonates. I'm sure I'll evolve it over time, but this feels right with who I am, my experiences, and how I can build those superpowers and maximize impact. Thanks, Cassia. So everyone has their leadership why, and part of it is just distilling it into your statement, to give you that clarity and give you that conviction in what you're doing. And I live by this. So the trick with writing these is to not overthink it. So, there's a bit of a process, which is, what are your 3 things? What's your story? What are the 3 things that have really impacted how you think about leadership? Then also look at your circles. What did you admire in the best leader you've ever personally experienced? What do people tell you about you? What's at the core of what's important to you? What makes you stand out and unique? And then just put it into these statements. And don't push it. Like, if it's not coming to you, then leave it and go away and come back. Let it percolate in your subconscious and then write it, because the more you push it, the less true it'll be. This is something that's in you, but just see what comes out. And I say to people, it's like literally 10, 15 minutes spent on this. And if it doesn't come out, then come back to it, because it's there in you. You just need to let it come through. So we're going to just spend a few minutes. I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about this. No worries, Cassia. Thanks for coming. But yeah, just spend 5 minutes creating your own leadership why. See what comes to you. And if you want to turn your camera off for this, I'll come back on. I'll turn my camera off too. I'll come back on in 5 minutes. A few people who've said thumbs up. Carissa's there. Awesome. So how did you find that? How did you find it as an exercise?
I thought that was quite good, Rowena. I think I could any day and time maybe come up with a different response. But I think I just went, what came to me was just what came to me in the moment. And I think I'm quite happy with it. But I wonder if maybe I did it next week, I might have a different answer. But I suppose that could be fun.
And that's a great experiment, right? So what I would encourage you to do is, because that's how your brain works. So do like 5 different versions, just see what comes, and then look at the themes and then distill that into a final. So because again, our brains all work differently. So that about yourself, that depending on maybe what's on your mind, something else will come up or there'll be a different thought. So think about how to hack yourself, do 5 or 10 or however many you feel is the right number, and then distill it into a final.
Yeah, great idea.
How about other people? How did you find the exercise?
So, Rowena, I thought the framework was really good. I love it in its simplicity. But again, I was going off on a lot of different tree branches. So it'll be about
feeling.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
iterating.
It's so true. Like, so, it takes often a few goes to get it where you go, yep, that's it. And it doesn't have to be that version forever either. As you grow, it can grow with you. But its purpose is to get really clear about what's at your core and how do you then build that into having a greater impact. So, so that's pretty much all we've got for today. I just want to give you guys a heads up too, that I do have a new program called Grow Your Impact, which basically goes into 6 areas which build off your leadership wide. So there's a link. You'll get the link also in the email after this, and feel free to have a look. It's not starting until July, but it's basically then looking at how do you take your essence and manifest, express that in the key ways that drive influence and impact in business, in the way that you lead. So it's that combination of leadership but impact on business. And that's all I had, but it was so lovely to spend this hour with you all. Feel free to message me on LinkedIn or email also too, if you have any thoughts or inputs, what you find from your leadership why. And you know, I love iterating too. So if I get feedback on how to make this better, then I'd love to hear from you as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rowena. That was fantastic. Really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for sharing, Rowena. That was really lovely. That was great.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you
Take
soon.
care.
Thank you. Bye.